All right. Welcome to another episode of Football with the Fellas. I'm Clay from Brooklyn.
It's your man Meza. What's up?
What's up? And we're going to talk about the Week 1 debacle.
The big blue. We call it the Big Blue Blues. That's what we call it. The Big Blue Blues.
And, 100th year, had all the, Lawrence Taylor, Eli, Phil Simms, everybody was there at halftime. They had a great celebration at halftime. I actually watched that online yesterday, and that was pretty cool. But we didn't show up to play. Like, maybe they should have saved that for a different game.
Because they showed up in those pajama uniforms they were wearing. I'm sorry, Clay. I know I had to say that. When I saw it, I was like, wait a minute. Maybe we went back too far back in the day because those uniforms were like, they weren't big blue. They weren't really big blue uniforms. That's all I had to say.
It looked like the Montreal Canadiens hockey team. And I'm just not feeling it.
Chicago White Sox, man, when they had the
White Sox. Yeah.
Oh, terrible.
But getting to the game itself, first of all, we had a lead. We did nothing on offense, but then we got forced a turnover, got the ball in their 20, couldn't punch it in, but we got a field goal, so we actually had a lead. I don't know how long it's been since we had a lead. By the way, here's a statistic that kind of puts things in perspective. So last year, we lost game 1, 40-0. And we were down at the half of game 2, 20-0. So it was 60-0 last year after 6 quarters. We lost this game 28-6 after 4 quarters. So if you take those 10 quarters, that game and a half last year and this game this year, we are down 88-6 in those 10 quarters. That's impressive, actually. That's hard. It's hard to be down 88-6 in 2.5 games, in any number of games.
That's just the way to start a season, I guess, right?
What that says to me is that our approach to the preseason is not working. And I'll just say briefly, if it was me, I would change. So the idea that you have 90 players for 3 preseason games, and then you cut 37 of them between Saturday, where the third game is, and Tuesday, to me, that's ridiculous. The league doesn't make you wait until then to cut them. They just make you cut them by then.
Right.
What I think we should do is, after the first preseason game, we cut 15 of them. Now we're down to 75. After the second preseason game, we cut 15 of them. Now we're down to 60. And now we can play our starters in the third preseason game, maybe even a little bit in the second preseason game, building up some reps, building up some momentum. And then we only got 7 more guys to cut.
Oh, but they won't. No. But they won't play the starters. The starters don't play in the last preseason game
because they got to cut 37 people by Tuesday. But if you had already cut 30 of them, then I don't have to look at 30. We spent a whole lot of time looking at 37 people that will not be on the Giants, playing against people who won't even be on those teams because they're getting cut too, because it's backup against backup. So we spend 2/3 of our preseason, right? The first game, usually the starters play a series or 2.
Right.
The game, maybe they play a quarter or 2. And then the whole third game, they don't play at all. We spend most of our time looking at people that are not going to work for us. I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me.
They don't want guys to get hurt. That's the big thing.
Yeah, but then they get into the regular season and look like this, 88-6 after 2.5 games. Because they're not good yet. We don't have any, cohesion. We don't have any reps under our belt to play well. The first regular season game is basically the 4th preseason game.
True.
I think that's looking at this the wrong way. I think I would much rather be looking at the people that are the 53 I'm keeping for a little bit longer in the summer than the 37 I'm not keeping. I don't need to get to know 37 of you very well so I can say goodbye. I need to get to know 53 of you very well so I can say hello and play some ball together. So they need to play more. Honestly, I wish it was at least 4 preseason games, but you got to play them in the preseason a little bit more than you do. And the sooner you start getting rid of bodies, the more you again, if you're not going to cut anybody till the end,
then
of course you have to watch all 90 of them play week 3, because now I got to get rid of 37. I don't know which 37. I'm hoping we would have already gotten rid of 30 of them and don't have that problem. Anyway,
Let me ask you this question then. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Just we're gonna back up a second. The overall,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about the overall performance of the Giants in the first game? Overall,
Overall, we were terrible. Dexter Lawrence was his usual dominant self. Andrew Thomas had a very, very good game, an Andrew Thomas type game. And that's it. Like, really, nobody else played very. Oh, and Graham Gano.
Okay.
Is the reason we didn't get shut. So, Graham Gano, thank you. Props to you for the 6 points.
Special team.
Jamie Gillian, the punter, the Scottish Hammer, he punted well. There was that one.
And often?
And often. There was that one play where we pinned him down to the 1. That was a very good punt. It was actually kind of a bonehead play on the coverage team because there was 3 people standing next to each other at the 1 yard line. So the first guy makes a great play, right? He's getting ready to fall in the end zone. He throws it back to the second
right.
guy. And then the third guy standing next to the second guy, and he's watching him fall into the end zone. Grab him. Just grab him and pull him back. You're standing right next to him. You didn't have to watch him fall into the end zone. You could have said, my man, hold on to the ball. I got you. I will pull you backwards. There was no need for the second guy to turn around and throw it back to the third guy because they act like they've never met, like they were on a blind date. Like, don't y'all play for the same team? Did y'all practice together at all?
Probably a rookie, though. Rookies are afraid the first game jitters.
I would have done it. Like, my football senses would have kicked in and said, oh, he's falling into the end zone with the ball. I'm standing right next to him. I got you. I will pull you back. Not a difficult thing to come up with. Anyway, so how do we play overall? Badly. Daniel Jones looked terrible. The pass blocking was decent. Like, there was a couple of sacks that were on Daniel, not on the line. He held the ball too long. He ran right back into a sack. He didn't have a very good game at all. He had a very bad game. But the pass pro was decent. Dexter was dominant. What happened to the edge rushers? Wait.
He's still looking for him?
I'm still looking.
He's still looking for him?
Still looking for him. I understand.
So okay, I'm going to go right to the offense because, okay. Like how we started last time, and like we do in all episodes, Daniel Jones is the one we talk about at the beginning of each one of these because he's the focal point.
Of course.
This is his do or die season with the Giants.
And he makes money.
He makes a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And no matter how you look at it, if he plays well or doesn't play well, we're going to be talking about Daniel Jones. So we might as well start right at the beginning.
You're right.
The best thing I think Daniel Jones did would be what?
Not get hurt.
Okay.
I would say that's the best thing he did is not get hurt.
Do we have anything positive about Daniel Jones? Because every sports show you listen to, it's Daniel Jones, and they're like, they show people burning his jersey and just
booing him as he's coming out at the stadium in his civvies, which is unacceptable, by the way. All jokes aside, that's not cool. Like,
no, not when he's not
on the field in his uniform. Boo him,
right?
Sure, but after work, when he's just Daniel Jones, private citizen, leave the man alone. Like that.
Right. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
But yeah, he threw his pick six again. That's his jam now. Let me throw a pick six. You probably saw the statistic that since he signed that $160 million contract, he has thrown more touchdown passes to the opponents than to us.
Which is terrible.
Which is ridiculous. That's not okay.
No.
I'm smiling because it's painful, but it's not okay. Forget that we're 1-6 because I don't consider wins and losses to be a quarterback stat per se.
Right.
But we are 1-6, with him as quarterback in the last 2 years. But more pick sixes than touchdown passes? Like, first of all, there shouldn't be pick sixes, much less a quantity of them that exceeds the number of touchdown passes. That's not okay.
Not at all.
But more importantly, he looks scared. He looks like a deer in the headlights. He looks like he doesn't have confidence in our line, which is actually an improved line compared to last year, and or doesn't have confidence in the scheme and or the receivers. And I'll give you an example. On the first drive of the game, we wound up with 3rd and 15. There was a couple of penalties. There was a throw out into the flat that turned into a -5. He should have just dropped it. Whatever. 3rd and 15. And on 3rd and 15, we sent everybody, 3 people, to the sticks to run curls. And
Okay.
then two
Okay.
tight ends chipped a little bit and then ran out into the flat like 5 yards downfield. Nobody went deep. They rushed forward, had 7 drop back in coverage, if I remember correctly. Maybe they rushed 5 and had 6 in coverage, but there was at least 6 DBs dropping back in coverage. And the 2 deepest safeties were at the sticks, 15 yards downfield at the 40, and they were coming downhill as soon as our receivers got near them because they knew nobody was going deep. It is really hard to get open in the short and intermediate zones if they don't respect your deep ball.
Right.
So
wait. Don't we have Malik? Didn't we have our first round pick was Malik Neighbors? Isn't he?
Did.
Like
he
gosh
was one of them.
darn good?
He was one of them. He ran up the right sideline, ran like a 15-yard curl. Darius Slayton ran up the left side, 15-yard curl. Like they're chopping their feet coming to a stop after like 12 yards so they can stop right at the sticks. But if everybody knows you're doing that, then of course you're not open. At least one of them needed to be on a go route, just right. Or post. Just keep going and take the safeties with you so that the other guy, Wandale, was running a curl in the middle of the field as well. Maybe now he turns that into a choice route, right? He can cut across the field, left or right, if you've taken the safeties out. But the fact is, we sent nobody deep, and they knew it. It's like they were in the huddle with us and said, oh, nobody's going deep. And so now they got 6 or 7 DBs covering 15 yards worth of vertical field with basically 3 receivers. How are you supposed to get open with 3 receivers being covered by 6 people in a 15-yard window?
So wait, what you're saying to me now, if I remember this play correctly, it describes we have 22 guys who are not beyond our first down marker.
Correct.
So everybody is in front of them. Nobody's gone beyond where we need to get to.
No. They had 2 safeties who at the snap were like at the 42. Like they were 2 yards past the sticks. Remember, the kickoff was a touchback. So we started the drive on the 30. We had to get to the 40. So they started at the 42. But by the time the receivers got anywhere near the 35, they were coming downhill. They were like, oh, yeah, I know y'all ain't going deep. So they were coming up to meet them so that Daniel wouldn't even throw it. Right? So Daniel was like, oh, everybody's double covered. I can't throw it there. So he threw the check down to Theo Johnson, who dropped it. That's not great. But the fact is, had he caught that ball 5 yards downfield, he still had more than 10 yards to go there was somebody right in front of him, and there were 2 more defensive backs coming up hard after the ball was in the air. So even if he broke that first tackle, my point is we'd be punting anyway, right? It might have been 4th and 7 instead of 4th and 15, but we'd be punting anyway. But if you send somebody deep, first of all, would it have killed you to throw that deep ball? Like just saying to Darius Slayton, go run a 9 and Malik run a post, and I'm going to air it out and let's see what happens. Would that have been such a terrible idea? He had plenty of time to throw.
I was going to ask you, did he have time? Did he have time?
Now, in fairness, that was the first drive of the season, and Daniel Jones probably still shell-shocked from last year, probably thought he wouldn't have time. So I'm not going to say that Daniel should have known he was going to have time, but he did have time. So that was terrible. By contrast, so that was an incomplete pass. We punt. They get the ball back, and now they have the ball 3rd and like 20 because Dexter Lawrence sacked Sam Darnold on the second play. 3rd and 15 at least. And they sent people on deep patterns. Like I watched the replay. They send somebody on a deep post. Now they wound up throwing the check down because we got some pass rush, and they didn't have time. Darnold didn't have the kind of time that Daniel Jones had. So Darnold said, oh, I don't want to get sacked for a safety. He was standing in the end zone. Kayvon was coming around behind him. He checked it down, and Drew Phillips came up and tackled that guy, and that guy, he caused a fumble. We recovered the ball. That's how we got the ball in their 20. But the fact is they were sending their receivers deep, clearing out for Justin Jefferson to run a deep drag, probably 15 or 20 yards downfield when the safeties are gone. So had they had enough pass protection, they would have had a scheme in place to allow them to throw a relatively safe 15 or 20-yard pass. We don't give ourselves that option. I don't understand it.
Again, we have receivers. I thought we had nice, young, even fast receivers.
I think we have a good crop of receivers. Now, we don't have a cannon for a quarterback. Like, I don't think he's going to be throwing 70-yard bombs, not 70 yards in the air. But we have receivers that can stretch the field. We can at least make the DBs respect us 30 or 40 yards downfield instead of 15.
See, that's a question to me. See, right there, that's a question to me of the schemes too. Because I mean, the play, like even the play you're talking about, I know there was plenty of plays just like that. We didn't have anybody going long. We had nobody like going across the field. People are doing outs. And if you've seen some of the plays, some of the throws he made, we had two receivers standing almost next to each other. Which should never ever happen. I'm questioning the offensive scheme right now. I'm really questioning.
George, I can't agree with you more. The scheme looks like it's the problem. It's a problem. Daniel's also a problem, but the scheme looks like a bigger problem because you're right. It would be very easy, I think, to play defensive back against us. They interviewed Ivan Pace, their inside linebacker, who's like, I think it's his second or third year out of Cincinnati, before the game, and somebody asked him, "Are you worried about the Giants' offense?" And he laughed. He was like, "No, I'm not worried about the Giants' offense."
Oh God!
And that was, again, this is not like a 8 or 10 year veteran who just has seen everything and knows everything. This is a young athletic guy saying, "Yeah, I've seen the tape. They don't scare me. I know they're not going deep. I know that Daniel Jones is not going to be able to beat me 40 yards downfield or beat our DBs 40 yards downfield. So I know that most of it's going to be happening right around me." That's unacceptable.
Well, let me ask you this then. In your view, what about our receivers? We just were talking about them. Did any of our receivers have a really good game? I mean, in your
Malik Neighbors caught several balls, and so did Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, they for the most part held on to the balls when they were thrown their way. So
when it was thrown their way.
Yeah, when it was thrown their way, they came up with them. But again, the schemes didn't, like when you watch the 49ers, there's always seemingly somebody running wide open.
Wide open.
Like
in stride.
and the ball hits him in stride. So there's two different things. Daniel also missed a lot of throws. There was a good half a dozen throws that were either at somebody's feet or behind them or too high. Like he just was missing throws. Brock Purdy seems to hit people in stride. But he's hitting people in stride that are already open.
Right.
So like, can we have one of those, please? Could you either hit him in stride and then he gets tackled right away? Or if he's wide open, just hit him and he can get back up and run because he's wide open. But if he's locked up and your throw is off, that's not going to end well.
But okay. I have to go here. I have to go here. I was trying not to, but I have.
I know where you're going.
Offensive line, but I'm going to talk about. There's a number 26 in the backfield, but his name is a different name on that jersey that I got a problem with. I mean, the guy who's there now, he's probably a nice guy. He's probably a real nice guy.
Cool. And he's no problem with football player.
Good football player.
Good football player.
But he's not the other. He's not that other guy.
He's not that other guy. How'd that guy do this week? I don't remember. Did you see the game he played?
I believe he had 1, 2, 3.
Three
touchdowns,
including a touchdown reception. Because when they see somebody whose number is in the 50s lined up to cover Saquon, they say, "Oh, audible, Saquon, take that to the rack, please," because nobody in the 50s can cover you. So they figured that out right away. First game of the season, they're like, "Oh, Saquon can go long. Take this with you." And he had 2 rushing touchdowns and over 100 yards rushing. Now, much better offensive line. So the 100 yards rushing part is part and parcel to having a much better offensive line and weapons that make the defense respect them, right? So with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, they can't have 7 or 8 in the box just to stop Saquon now because they got to cover those guys. So I get that. But the wheel route, how many times I've watched film of Saquon running wheel routes in the summer for us, right? During preseason.
Right.
Wheel routes for days. But then the season gets here and he runs like 2 a year.
Right.
Like, oh, yeah, let's not call that. What? They got somebody number 57 that's covering him out wide? Yeah, no. Bring him back to the back. Let's run a draw.
Oh, God.
Anyway, but your point was, how did our running game go? So our blocking is not great. That first turnover that we got right after the first punt, they fumbled. We picked it up on the 20. The first play after that, I think it was the first play, we brought in 3 tight ends. We were in 13 set.
Okay.
All 3 tight ends to the left, right outside of Andrew Thomas's shoulder, right? It's Chris Manhertz, Theo Johnson, Daniel Bellinger, all
Okay.
just to the left of Andrew Thomas.
Gotcha.
And we ran the ball to the left. And we pulled the offside guard. Greg Van Roten came and pulled to kick out.
Well, that should have gone for
That should have gone for quite a ways, but he's still
right.
My wife said, was he gonna stop running? No game. No game. Again, scheme. So what we did with all that beef is we had Andrew Thomas and Chris Manhertz. Chris Manhertz is the best blocking tight end on the team. So I don't know why he was the one next to Andrew Thomas. You would think they would put one of the weaker blocking ones next to Andrew Thomas, put him outside, Logic. Whatever. Put him next to Andrew Thomas. And the two of them double teamed the defensive end. And the other two, Bellinger and Johnson, double teamed the outside linebacker. Neither of those blocks was particularly well done. All four of our players seemed to run into each other and got submarined by those two defensive players. So then now there's 6 bodies basically a yard downfield laying
a yard
in the way. A yard, right? They didn't put back 6 or 8 yards. This is a yard. Congesting. John Runyon whiffed on his block, so the nose tackle just did a swim move on him, got right past him, came up to cut off the cut back, right? So now as you're going out, like a toss left, I think it was a handoff, but he's going out left to try to get to the edge. You can't cut back because the nose tackle was unblocked coming up behind you. And nobody blocked their inside linebacker who just waltzed
standing in the hole.
He just waltzed through the B gap because nobody was there and said, oh, you're going to run the ball to the left? Thanks. Thanks for letting me know by putting everybody and their mom out in the left to block. And nobody blocks me. So he meets the running back behind the line of scrimmage and threw him down to the ground for no gain. 13 personnel, 3 tight ends, no game.
No game. If you can't run with the 13 personnel, you can't run. You can't run.
If you
there's no hope. There's no hope.
3 tight ends. It's not just that we had 3 tight ends in the game. We put them on the same side of the field and ran behind them for no gain.
So, and Daniel comes back to the huddle going, oh gosh, I got to call. They're going to call. When you see him going like this, I know he's listening to the coach.
Right. For most quarterbacks, that's listening to the headset. For Daniel Jones, it's like the scream.
Exactly. Like, come on, no.
Or Macaulay Culkin.
What?
From Home Alone.
Painful
to watch. So yeah, we look bad in most phases. Our kicking game was good, but everything else we looked bad. Dexter Lawrence was great. Andrew Thomas was very good, and the Jermaine Illuminor at right tackle, very solid game in pass protection. Right, our interior pass blocking is better than last year, but not great. John Michael Schmitz, again, he's 25 years old. Right, this is not a young man. I know he's his second year in the pros, but he's 25 years old. I don't know how much better he's going to get than he is at 25 years old, and he's just not that good. So maybe we could have drafted a center. Whatever. Don't get me started. But
went there.
But the Brian Burns Kayvon Thibodeau edge rushing combination has got to show up more than they.
Right. Yeah, they definitely got to show up.
Kayvon didn't have a single tackle. Kayvon Thibodeau, you and I had the same number of tackles this Sunday.
And you didn't play.
And I didn't play.
So
that's not okay.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And Kayvon played like 70% of the snaps and got no tackles. Not okay. Brian Burns had a couple tackles. He was actually fairly stout in the run game, but he didn't get to the quarterback. And, Dexter, like I said, had a sack on the second play of the game. And that was, I believe, certainly that was his only sack. And certainly it was only sack of those 3. I feel like there might have been one more sack. But overall, Darnold was not under a lot of pressure. Every now and then somebody hit him. Every now and then.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
He wasn't under much pressure.
He's on a little duress a couple of plays, but...
Yeah, a couple plays.
But I remember him dropping back. I remember a couple of times seeing him dropping back, and there was a nice cone pocket in front of him, and guys were just running free.
And grilling and,
right.
drinks and stuff, because he had all that.
And I was wondering, okay, our D-backs are going to really be in trouble right now. They're really, really good. Because our linebacking core, I can't even talk about them. That's not a New York Giants linebacking core.
Well, Bobby O is very good against the run.
The only one.
And against the run.
Against the run.
Right. And he's okay against the pass, but he's our best linebacker against the pass. I mean, Isaiah Simmons is supposed to be the linebacker that is good against the pass, he didn't play a single snap, not one. Isaiah Simmons and you and I played the same number of snaps.
Was he hurt? Wait a minute. Was he
hurt? No. It was a DNP. Did not play. Coach's decision.
I didn't know they had those in football. Especially with a named guy.
It's not baseball. Like, you can come in and out.
Right.
Once you come out, you're done. I don't get it.
I thought he was hurt. That's why he didn't play.
He was fine. That's why Micah McFadden didn't play. He's still not 100%, and they were saying that's the guy with the other inside linebacker last year who seems to be losing his job to Muasau, the rookie, at least while he's hurt. They're not going to rush him back. They're going to let Muasau. They're going to live and die with Muasau until he gets back. But Isaiah Simmons is supposed to be, he's very athletic. What they said in the post-game conference was that Dane Belton, the third safety, took the snaps that Isaiah Simmons usually gets as the money backer, right? So instead of bringing Isaiah Simmons in to be that hybrid linebacker, strong safety kind of thing, they used Dane Belton instead. And I kind of like Dane Belton, but Isaiah Simmons is extremely athletic, and we got to figure out a way to get something out of his athleticism. I don't know what it is. Do we bring him on the blitz? Because he's really fast and really long, right?
But he's got to be on the field first.
Got to be on the field.
He got to be on the field first before we can do anything with it. If they
and in the game,
I thought he was hurt.
Yeah, no. His feelings are hurt. He's physically fine. I'm hurt.
Oh man, I gotta look at the injury report at the beginning for these games now again.
Yeah, no,
I thought I was looking for him out there and I didn't see him. I'm like,
he's fine. And Cordell Flott, who spent all summer, at least, so there was some practice that are closed, right? So you don't get to see everything. But while there were reporters allowed to watch practices and during the preseason games, Cordell Flott played on the outside corner the whole time. Okay. And in this game, he played slot. Hadn't played slot at all summer, at least again, from what we could see.
Right.
And they moved him to the slot for this game. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, and Drew Phillips, the guy who caused that fumble in the first drive.
Right.
Drafted to play the slot, played like 15 snaps. And then Cordell Flott played the rest. I don't. There's coaching and scheme decisions that make me scratch my head. Daniel Jones had a bad game overall. And our pass rush disappeared, other than Dexter.
Right,
so
right.
That is not a trifecta that is going to allow us to win. Right? That's not a winning trifecta. That's a 28-6 loss trifecta. And that's what happened. To a team that's not that good. Like, I mean, I don't think Minnesota's going to the Super Bowl. Like that.
No.
We didn't lose to San Francisco 28-6. We lost to Minnesota 26.
It's going to be a long season. Right now, the fans are screaming after game one. They're talking about replacing Daniel Jones after game one. Like,
I mean, they weren't even waiting till game one, but now for sure, there's a whole lot of people who were ready to place him before game one, but he just gave them all kinds of fuel for that fire. Now you're right.
I'm gonna hang with him. I'm gonna hang with him. I'll just say his first game. I'm gonna give him about 6 games. He's getting paid.
You may not be able to give him 6 games because I don't know if Brian Daboll is giving him 6 games. I would say, honestly, if I'm Brian Daboll, and I'm not Brian Daboll, clearly, because there's a lot of things I would have done different if I was Brian Daboll. But if I had to guess what Brian Daboll is going to do, I'm thinking 3 or 4 games. If we have 3 or 4 games like this one, he can't keep trotting him out there. They can't. Now, part of it is that Drew Lock seems to not be 100% yet, right? So, they didn't even have Tommy DeVito active. So Drew Lock is probably okay, but the sense I got is that he's not 100% healthy. And so when somebody asked, why didn't you pull Daniel Jones at the end of the game and getting blown out? He was like, that never came up. That was not an option, which I took to mean, well, why would I risk the guy who's not fully healthy anyway? Let Daniel finish his own mess. But after 2 or 3 more of these and Drew Lock getting healthier, and more, reps in practice and everything. Again, I don't want there to be 2 or 3 more of these. I don't expect there to be 2 or 3 more of these. But if there are 2 or 3 more of these, he got to go.
The reason I said I'm going with 5 or 6, say, is because once they sit him down, that's omission that you made the mistake. We all know they made a mistake. But they're going to admit it. They're admitting it at that point.
You're right. That's them admitting, my bad. Let's get him out of here. You're right. And that's going to be harder to do. You're right. Although, so I've always had the sense that the GM is in charge up until the day before the season starts. And then the head coach is in charge once the games are being played. I don't think Brian Dable is the reason Daniel Jones is our quarterback. I think Joe Schoen is the reason Daniel Jones is our quarterback.
Yeah, it's Joe.
And Brian Dable's job is to get W's during the regular season. So he may, I mean, I'm not saying that he would, fly in the face of what his boss would like, but I think he'll be making the case that, hey, listen, I need to keep my job. And if we go, 2-15, I don't know if I'm going to be back. So I need to put people out there to give me the best chance to get some W's. And if it isn't Daniel Jones, you're going to have to eat that, bro. Because I can't let them get me fired because you picked the wrong guy. Had the choice between Saquon and Daniel Jones. Don't get me started on
that. But the thing is funny. He's not a rookie. It's not his first, second year. He's been in the league 6 years, right?
6 years. 6 years.
And he's still not good.
He could have had a master's degree by now. Undergrad and master's. Bachelor's and master's.
This is what we're stuck with. This is what we're stuck with right now.
Right now.
How can, wait a minute. If was Drew Lock, he was dressed though for the game.
Yeah, Drew Lock was dressed. Tommy DeVito was when they didn't dress.
See, for me, that's a rule they gotta I want them to go to at least have 3 quarterbacks and just say the third guy can't come in unless the second guy gets hurt.
I think that is the rule actually. I'll look that up after we finish. But I'm pretty sure that there's an emergency quarterback rule that they added.
You gotta have that. You gotta have.
But listen, we needed a quarterback in an emergency, even though he's not injured. We have an emergency need for quarterback. I was telling somebody at work today that I think we would be like a 10-point underdog against Miami. And I don't mean the Dolphins. I'm talking about the U. Hurricanes. Because, I mean, this was terrible. This was terrible.
But the U's got a quarterback we like, though.
That's the quarterback I want, Cam Ward.
Cam Ward.
Yes, sir. Cam Ward is no joke. That young man has skills.
I can see we're going to be talking about him later on during the season.
We're going to be talking about him a lot.
Yeah. We're going to bring him up. Definitely. So let me ask you,
Clay.
Clay.
Hear first, but you'll be hearing his name again.
Listen. What's your big takeaway from the last question? What's your big takeaway from this whole thing as far as this game and then going to game 2 against the Commanders?
I guess my biggest takeaway is that, like I said earlier, I think we are going about the preseason all wrong. I think this is like our 4th preseason game. Really, it's like our 2nd preseason game for the starters. And it shows. We just don't look like we're in sync. We just don't look like we have the timing. We don't have the scheme down. There's just too many things that I think, passes that are thrown, either the route was wrong, or the throw was off. Things that I think more reps would work on. I think that we are not ready for prime time, so to speak. And fortunately, these first 2 teams aren't that good, right? Minnesota and now we have Washington coming up. Those are not teams that anybody's expecting to go on deep playoff runs. So if you need to put your toe in the water, so to speak, and try to figure things out, fortunately, we have those 2. After that, there's a whole lot of games that, let's just say, we're not going to be favored in.
Well, Daniel might play well, because he will be away from home because they're playing in DC. So he won't have all the people's. Well, that's wrong. We think that because there are a lot of New Yorkers who are in the DC area, in the DMV area. So yeah, he's going to catch it anyway.
Neutral site in London.
He's going to catch it.
I don't care where we play. It's not, to me, that's not the problem. It's how we play, and we have to play better. On again, other than 2 or 3 people, Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas, and the kickers, and Jermaine Illuminor. Other than that, who really showed you something? Malik Neighbors, like I said, he and Wandale caught the balls thrown to them, but I don't know if they just weren't getting open enough, or soon enough, or what. But it looked to me like Daniel Jones wasn't reading the field well enough to throw the ball with anticipation and say, okay, this guy's coming open, let me hit him now. Or let me send more people deep to loosen up the defense. I mean, if I remember correctly, he didn't throw any. Somebody said he threw 1. I didn't see it. Any balls more than 25 yards down the field. Not any. Or at most 1. That's not okay. That has to change too. We have to Jalen Hyatt had 15 or 16 snaps. Why? This 3 tight end stuff, and even the 2 tight end stuff.
That's not gonna work.
Sure, once in a while, 3rd and 1, sure. But apparently it didn't work anyway because we still didn't gain any yards running with 3 tight ends.
Should have put the tight end in the backfield and let him be the lead blocker.
Listen, we have to try different things than we tried this week. Anyway, this has been great. I'm curious to see if anybody remembers to hit the like button, to hit the subscribe button, to throw in some comments. We'd love to hear what you think about what we think.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll be back in a couple of days to look ahead at week 2, right?
You sure will. It's because it's all about Big Blue. Remember that. It's all about Big Blue.
It's about the blue. All right, George. Mazo.
Right. Thanks for hanging out with Football with the Fellas.
You know it.
We catch you next time.
You know it. Peace.
Peace.